today is November 30th. Time is 4:31 p.m. and this is the Finance Committee meeting. In attendance, we have myself, Councilperson Brian Moore, Committee Chair. We have Councilpersons Camera, Bruger, and Martin in attendance, as well as our Fiscal Officer, Mr. Wilczek, Mayor Hughes. Southern, yes, sorry. You know what's really funny is I thought really hard to say the right name and then biffed it in.
I appreciate the support.
Yeah, you know.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
You need a-
I'm going to change my name about 10 more times just so you guys can.
Like, you know.
Right. Not the last name for the record.
Patriarchy.
Somewhere around 13, you should pick your name.
And
that's
stay,
just your name
yeah.
Forever.
I'm with you.
That was driving Max Powers.
Awesome. Right? All right, so here we go. Mr. Wilczek, you got the floor. Huh?
I think the mayor had something she wanted to do.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm going to switch from just a real quick house cleaning type thing. December 7th, we've added the meeting. The first one is we're going to do the work session first. Hopefully we're going to get through a lot of stuff here. And then at 7:30, we will move into the council meeting. And the reason that we did that, and if we're not done at 7:30, it's fine. The reason that we did 7:30 was so, and you still have an odd look on your face, like, what are you talking about?
You know,
December 7th. Does anybody?
December 7th is a work session, but we are going to also have a council meeting after it so we can read legislation.
got it.
And the reason for that is it has to do with the moratorium and the paperwork that we have for
Yeah.
that.
That's fine.
So the way that we have it listed, if anybody asks you any questions, is we are doing the work session first at 7. We may not get done by 7:30, 7:45. Hopefully with this tonight, we will. But we will just start the next meeting whenever. As you guys are aware, we can't start a meeting before, so we don't want to sit around and do nothing. We don't anticipate being done at 7:30, but that's why it's listed that way. Then just a refresher for everybody, January 8th is going to be the next meeting that we have for the new council. And we plan on not having a work session that very first week of January because 2 of us will not be here. So we plan on doing the swearing in on January 8th. And then we will move to a work session on January 8th. And we will still have the council meeting, the first council meeting of the year to vote on president and pick your guys', we'll talk about picking committees and president and all that stuff at the work session, and then we'll finalize all of that stuff if everybody's okay with that. So that is the question. Is everybody okay with January 8th and then Thursday having the actual meeting?
I don't think
You
I
don't
can
get
make that one.
Thursday. And that will be Thursday at 7 p.m. So the January,
Ryan and I are messing around.
Yeah,
Jason,
I know.
actually. No.
I already know,
Okay.
yeah.
I was
So
gonna say,
that's
I
more
can't
for you.
serious reply.
So January 8th, we're gonna do the swearing in at 6:45. It is already listed as that, and then we're gonna move straight to the work session at 7. And then on Thursday night, it's gonna remain 7 p.m. unless the council decides to change all of that moving forward. But they will discuss the handbook and all that kind of stuff on January 8th. And that's all I have. I just wanna make sure that all those dates and times work.
Yep.
Okay. I was actually hoping to have a few more things for tonight, but it didn't work out that way. And I'll explain a little bit later as we go through some things. What I did pass out to you is the ordinance addressing wages and salary ranges and positions that was approved for 23 and what's proposed for 24. And I highlighted a lot of the changes that are in this, but there's a couple of big ones that I'll address as we go down. So last year when we talked about the increases for the police department, we were looking at 15 and 12 and a half. That's actually been scaled back to 10%. So all of the ranges increased 10% for the patrol officers. And then the remaining positions, because they're a percentage above, so that you have that difference between the positions and their responsibilities, those all changed. But they stayed the same. 3% for the school resource officer above 4 and 6. Sergeant is 6% above 4 and 6, the range. Lieutenant is 6% above the sergeants, and the chief is 10% above the lieutenant. Okay? And that's the same as last year. It affected everything. There's still only 10 positions authorized in the police department. That stays at that level. going down to section 2,
Hey,
go ahead.
just one thing, I noticed, we have 3 part-timers and one we approved this year, but 2 for 24. So
The
that's-
reason, if you guys remember, that was a technical thing, is the reason that we went to 3 was because we had a police officer that needed to go to part-time, but only stayed at part-time for a very short amount of time.
So we increased it to 3 for that.
Just for that, and I don't know that you wanna keep it at 3, or if, but that was the reason that we did it. We weren't trying to like, it was a technical.
I just want to make sure that that's
No.
called out here as a difference.
We'll keep them at 2.
Yeah.
That change last year was for the lieutenant who was doing a retirement and coming back.
Gotcha.
So that's been changed, she's back full-time.
Jeffrey, I am confused on this whole officer section.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that years out? Is that years of experience? Is that,
Those are step increases.
those are years of experience in the village?
Or
Yes,
necessarily.
but it's not necessarily years of experience so much as it falls on anniversary dates.
All officers are hired in based on their past experience, or if they're a new officer. So yes, some officers may come in at a step 1, some officers could come in at a step 4, you could potentially get a step 6.
Gotcha.
So that's how, when they're hired, and then each year they only increase 1 step from wherever it is. And we have officers in many of those scales.
So I guess my question is, if you start year 1 at step 1, are you at step 6 at year 6? or
Correct.
is- Okay, so those are yearly, we just
Correct.
stop it at 6?
Yes, it just depends on where they started.
6 in year 7, right? Because you change on the second year. But anyway, yeah.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay. Down in section 2, the hourly rates increased, and what I did was to create a 50-cent difference between the levels so that there's no overlap there. And what was a maintenance worker seasonal is now going to be called a laborer. And the reason for that is we have a maintenance worker 1 and 2, and we eliminated the maintenance supervisor. Okay?
I think,
There's a reason for that, and we'll get down to the next table on it.
no, I understand that. I think, I question saying maintenance worker 1 and maintenance worker 2, because is there a separate job description for those 2 people?
There will be.
Okay, so they're not performing the same tasks, which is why we are separating them out.
That's the intent.
Because I feel like if they are held accountable for the same job, that it is 1 pay range for that position. But if we're saying we're separating out the responsibilities, then we can classify them as worker 1 and worker 2.
Yeah, I think it's implied, what you're suggesting is implied in the rates, because number 2 is being paid more than number 1.
Right.
It almost looks like it is similar to the police step rates, right? You're a police officer, step rate 1, you're a police officer, step rate 2. This is worker level 1, worker level 2. We just only have 1 of each.
Okay. Is that what you're?
That's also a thought that was in my mind on that,
Mhm.
but when 1 would advance from a 1 to a 2, it's not set in stone,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
But there will be a slight difference between a 1 and a 2.
And
What I
just
don't
'cause
want
we're
to
doing
have
it
happen-
different than the police officers, I want to make sure we're very clear on why.
What I don't want to have happen is the maintenance supervisor 2, the maintenance worker 2, supervising the 1. That is not intended to be a supervisory position,
Right.
okay? So it may come down to experience with some things that will
Okay.
generate the difference.
Okay.
And no, I don't have those written up yet.
No, that's
Okay. Moving on to page 2. The major change here is we eliminated the maintenance worker in place of a laborer for the pool, and then we restructured the wages for the lifeguards 1, 2, and 3, and there's a 50-cent difference between a 1 and a 2 and a 3 as to their steps or their ranges in there. Okay? I do believe we're also going to try and address, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, way the pool operates on bad weather days, that it'll close at a certain point. Good, okay. There's no reason to have 2 or 3 lifeguards on duty when nobody's there. Things like that.
We actually discussed that in our last rec and park, a list of rules for closing
Okay.
the pool, so that there's no, it's not up to any one person if it falls within the guidelines. Everyone knows we're closing the pool.
Perfect.
So,
Okay, that's it for that grouping there. There was no change with the administrative assistants between a full-time and a part-timer in terms of compensation. Okay. Table 3, you'll notice there's a new position in there, it's called a maintenance superintendent. And the intentions here are for us to hire a full-time maintenance superintendent, and that person will have administrative functions to deal with, such as all the contracts relating to maintaining various areas around the village, and certain other projects, etc. They will still be expected to do some work, okay? Such as if they need to for mowing purposes, they're gonna jump on and do that, okay? And they will be the ones overseeing the maintenance workers and the laborers for those.
Excuse me, so that's a brand new position?
That is correct. Yes.
and I think some of the thought behind it is that we have a person who is looking at maintenance, literal maintenance of stuff, not like the
Yeah.
preventative maintenance,
Yeah,
not
yes.
the reactive, oh, there's a pothole, I need to fill it.
That person's gonna be responsible for putting out the RFPs to get the quotes for maintaining entrances and various other things.
Meeting with the
Yes.
vendors.
At this
You know,
point,
so-
I'm the person that's doing that. It is a full-time job for me, and everybody knows what happened in the last couple months, and I am not able to continue to work 50, 60 hours doing this. This is what is so time consuming for me, from the AEP job to the maintenance, to the shelter, I am the person that does all of that, and I can't, I'm one person.
So the other thing that goes with this is during the winter, they will have some responsibilities to take care of also. We'll work on that as far as some equipment so they can do some of the salting of the roads. Hopefully we can buy the salt from either Westerville or Blendon or
Clinton.
No,
Clinton.
Clinton.
Clinton has the garage.
Because we don't have the ability to store it ourselves. It is anticipated that this individual may work more than 40 hours during this spring, summer, and early fall. And when it hits the dead of winter, they may not be doing 40 hours. But that's when they'll take advantage of getting their administrative things done as far as the RFPs for a lot of work that has to get done around the village, okay? So it will balance out.
They can do landscaping contracts and things there's quite a bit of things that can still be done in the wintertime.
We don't, it looks like outside of chief on here, we don't necessarily specify if someone is salary or not. Is that?
Section 3 starts off salary positions. If that's what
Section 3 is all salary.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
So those are meant to all be salary there. The ranges for the fiscal officer, the assistant fiscal officer, police clerk, and clerk of courts also increased, and the upper end for the village planner increased. But the bottom of the range stayed the same. Okay? Merit increases will be limited to a 3% this year, and cost of living increase that is going to be awarded to non-uniform employees will be 4%. Okay? In section 8, all of the dates changed in order to accommodate 24 versus 23. Okay, cool. And there was a little bit of language change in section 7, more to just clarify. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to highlight the little things that changed in that paragraph.
All right, and I apologize, I got this water real quick. What is, and I I mean this just to open a discussion or just to put it out there. What is our planned use of the village planner? If we have the maintenance superintendent doing some of the contract and calling stuff,
Well, that's never
well,
been
the school, both of the schools are finished, the community building's finished. I know we're gonna have something with the lakes and people are gonna have to be doing stuff with that. We may or may not have something done with the pool, people are gonna do with that. But what's the rest of, and could some of those things with a new maintenance superintendent, freeing up people? Again, I'm not trying to be mean, I'm not going after anyone, I have no grudge in this fight. I'm just looking at $30,000 to $42,000 and what we're gonna use it for.
I think right now, I can say currently some of the things that he does that's outside of there, obviously still fixing, finalizing the building stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff is not done, and I expect
Oh,
that to go
I-
on a couple more months. He does still coordinate with MI Homes here and there for projects over there. And he also does still coordinate with the schools. Depending on what is going on, that is still being done. The other things that he does is obviously planning and zoning uses his services every single meeting. He, the code rewrite for 12 and 14, he has been a nonstop part of, and I don't expect that to end in the next 2 weeks, even though we have a reading on it. I'm quite sure that's not going to. So we had lowered his hours quite significantly. He is only working 15 hours a week at this point. So having the professional background that he has is helpful for the village, and we did lower the hours quite a bit last year. So in the future, I don't know what that looks like. So it's a great question. I would say
remember 4 years ago, there was talk of like, oh, well,
We only
buy
need-
things home, do we need
Right.
this?
And then I
it was
think-
like, oh, the schools, oh,
Right.
definitely, no one wants to deal with that.
The other thing that needs to look at is business properties up Cleveland Avenue and across Northland Plaza that belong to us. Need to reassess what's going on there and see if there's any kind of redevelopment that could take place to help build the commercial tax base and the employers in there. And he can be a very instrumental key for that.
And then last but not least, he does help with our code enforcement quite a bit. We have as you guys may or may not know, our code enforcement officer typically works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And that's it. So as far as permitting goes and all of those types of things, Eric is the person that's in the background that does finalize a lot of that stuff when he is not here. And I will say that there was the month of September, our code enforcement officer was out. I already am aware of an entire month he's going to be gone next year. So Eric will be filling that role as well at this point in time until we, look to do something different, because with that being a 1099 employee, fortunately or unfortunately, he can just leave for a month if he would like. So that I'm just being upfront to make sure the council knows that that's currently, that does happen and it is currently happening. But Eric is the person that, between Barb and Eric, anytime that he's not here, those are the two that fill in that position.
Don't we need Eric for the next project?
Yeah,
On top of that?
that was part of it.
Yeah. So, but moving forward, I think it's something that it's been brought up many times. And I think part of it, without going too far in depth, is we have very few part-time employees. We have one full-time employee throughout, other than the police department. So everybody does just kind of fill in anywhere and everywhere. So as we move forward, getting some full-time people that do this or this, you may not need that kind of stuff. But right now we have I'll just say it, we have gaps in code enforcement. We have gaps, even, our office hours are 9 to 3 because we are part-time. We don't have the full-time staff. There are days in which I think we would love to have another person to help answer the phones and doors or whatever, because when one person is sick, this is what you get.
Or it becomes Leah and she doesn't
Or
get a chance to.
she can't afford to take a day. She can't afford to take a day to do another person's job. So, that's part of it. It's something that as we continue to move forward, and it's how much money do we want to spend on more full-time employees? Because a full-time employee definitely does cost us quite a bit more.
Yes. So the wage and salary ordinance is up for third reading. I think it's being scheduled for the 14th.
That's gonna be the next question. Do you guys want it on the 7th or do you guys want it on the 14th? Obviously, if we do it the 7th, it's done and over with. It would be nice. My view is anything that we can get done on the 7th, I would prefer to, but I also don't want to throw it in your guys' face and say we need to do this. Because again, if we don't have enough people on the 14th,
Well, it's, on the 7th, it's a third reading, right?
it will be a
Yes.
third reading if we do it on the 7th.
So we need 4 people to pass it.
I think we're looking to pass it as an emergency.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're looking to pass it as.
So we just need 4.
As long as you're not waiving readings.
Oh, that's right, I just need 4, yeah.
'Cause I
Which
think-
is what you need to pass anyway, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and what's in here affects the budget that I've been working on in incorporating. So, if there's no more questions on this one,
I mean, other than where we come up with 10% for the raises for our.
Well, last year we-
Just
what we're trying to do is bring the officers up
do
to
what everyone else in the area.
Yeah,
reasonably close.
Yeah.
yeah. Because we were hoping to do
There's nothing
12.
else, I just wanted that said again,
Yes.
on the record on this when we're looking at this and saying, yes, there's a reason for that.
So, next topic, there's nothing passed out to you, but I want to bring you up to speed as to what's happening. Earlier this month, we had an RFP, per se, put out for healthcare, major medical. And the reason that that happened is because Medical Mutual was hitting us with a 17% increase. So the village really hasn't challenged Medical Mutual for many years. Medical Mutual was here when I was here before, so it's been over at least 10 years. So all of the employees had to go out and fill out what is called a form fire, which gave background to people that work here so that the bidders could look and see what's going on and put forth a quote bid for us. I just got word 2.5 hours ago. Okay, so I haven't had a chance to really study some of this and look at it closely. But one of the responders is Anthem. Anthem is proposing a 12.5 or 12.75% decrease from our current premiums. Okay, it maintains the same program that we currently have in terms of a high deductible policy, and we still maintain our HSA. IRS has forced the deductibles on the high deductible policy up $200 on the single side and $200 more on the family side.
They do that about every year.
Yeah. So IRS has it at $3,200 and $6,400. Anthem has the deductible set for this policy at $3,250 and $6,500. So what we're going to look at is, do we want to increase our contribution to the HSA a little bit to offset that side of it? The other thing that differs with the Anthem policy has to do with the prescription side. Even though you meet your deductible, there's still a copay that you will end up paying with the prescriptions. Now, I can't elaborate a whole lot more because I haven't had a chance to really study some of this.
Out of pocket is not all the way out of pocket, it's just mostly out of pocket.
Yes. One of the other responders was UHC. UHC is a preferred provider plan, PPO is what it's called. And that I don't want to use the word radically, but it significantly changes the policy that all of our employees are accustomed to. They are 22% below our current premiums. But things change. You no longer can have an HSA. We no longer have a high deductible plan. To give you an idea how much that 22% is, it's $37,000. Okay? Below our current premiums. Our current premiums are running right around $200,000 for the year.
Is that for?
You mean total savings?
Total.
That's
Total
savings.
Total savings.
Yes. Okay. We can look at a potential HRA, a health reimbursement account. The difference between the HSA and the HRA, what goes in the HSA stays with the employee. What lands in the HRA, if not used, reverts back to the employer. So we can also set the limits as to how much we will reimburse. Again, I need to look at that one a little bit more. Given how much of a change this is going to be for the employees, I'm kind of siding towards Anthem and staying with the high deductible and the HSA. But I need a chance to really look some things over and then again talk to our agent a little more to get this ironed out. That will allow me to fill in the ordinance that is also in front of you, which will have to be, I don't know if I can get it ready for next week, otherwise it will be December 14th.
Just so I can wrap my head around what you just said. You said the HRA money not spent by the employees comes back to the employer. Is that because the employer is funding that account? It's not coming out of their
Yes,
pocket?
the employer funds the HRA.
Okay, that almost sounds like, I don't think anyone here is real excited about changing everyone's plan that much.
The HSA is a combination of the employee and employer.
Well, if you're lucky.
And it comes a lot closer to.
Because I have HSA, and my employee, her, is not putting any money in for me.
If employees kick in, it'll cover the deductible, but we cover about 2/3 of that deductible for our employees, okay? A couple of other things that come back into play with this. Medical Mutual, the life insurance for our employees is tied into Medical Mutual with the healthcare. For the start of the year, that will be tied into Anthem. I don't know what kind of premium change occurs there. I don't know what to anticipate, so I'll have to fill you in later on that one. We are looking at first quarter next year, potentially separating out the life insurance, maybe increasing what we allow for our employees, because I think it's only 20 or 25 right now. It's very low. Bumping that up a little bit, but there is an interest amongst the employees to pick up additional life insurance, which they would pay for. So separating out the life will give us that advantage there.
Is that 2025 for the life insurance, including our police officers as well?
Yes,
Oh, that's not great.
No.
correct. So that's why we're
Well,
not
they get a lot.
I actually
so
thought,
they're okay.
just so you know, I actually thought it was 10. So I'm surprised to hear that it's 20 or 25, because I really thought it was 10.
We're gonna nail that down and figure it out, but that's something we'll look at as a potential change to occur in the first quarter, depending upon what we get back in terms of responses and cost. Okay? We're also looking at adding an employee assistance program. Generally, those are pretty cheap. It might be no more than $3 a person per month. So you're talking about $36 a year, okay? That would be very beneficial for our police officers. Okay?
And the other part to that is,
Some people do
it
have
has,
really good services.
Yes.
the other part to that is our lieutenant has interest in putting together a wellness program. And that is part of the wellness program that we offer, something like that.
So we'll be looking at that the first quarter and see how it all works out, and we'll come back to council and get that one authorized, okay? The other thing that we're looking at, and that will be in the first quarter again, is a short-term disability program for full-time employees. Generally, a short-term disability program kicks in after somebody's been off 2 weeks. I can't really say how that works out with workers' comp in case they're injured on the job, so on, but that remains to be seen, and I need to get more details on it. But that's something else we're gonna look into. Gotta see what the cost is, and I anticipate that will be a shared cost between the employer and the employee. The question is just how much, and until we get an idea of what the premiums will be for that and the overall limitations, I won't know. But that'll be coming back to you as another item. Okay? Our dental and vision stays the same. Dental, we're with Delta Dental, but we're also in a pool of sort that has better benefits than their standard dental, Delta Dental, which is great. Okay? VSP, there's not going to be any changes there. And VSP, or vision insurance, is pretty cheap in there.
And it's pretty worthless, but it's nice for the $60 you get. So hopefully we're not paying more than that.
So, and that's been.
But it's better than
things that-
nothing.
Mine's pretty good through there. I get my one checkup I need a year and like $100 off my glasses. I mean, much more do you need for a vision?
When you have contacts and glasses, you gotta pay for the contact one, which is just as expensive as having it done, yeah. So I get the shaft, and both of my kids wear contacts, so.
So,
You just gotta accept the insurance. Just
Yeah,
relax.
I mean,
Right?
If you, at that point, it's not bad vision coverage, it's just vanity. And
Yeah.
yes, you pay more than vanity, that's fine.
I'm
But,
done
you
with
know,
you.
that's, so glasses have problems that aren't.
The biggest thing with the healthcare overall for the village is, like I said, Medical Mutual was hitting us with just shy of 17% increase for the year. And by pursuing quotes from other providers, we're looking at a 12.75% drop from our current premiums. So I think that's pretty good.
This is a random question. If we go back to them and say that we've gotten us, you know, that we've gotten quotes for this, will they re-look at it or?
I did ask Brian Lenzo about that, and I asked, did Medical Mutual even respond? He goes, no.
Okay,
And he goes, you will not get
right.
a reduction like this from Medical Mutual at all. So it's not even worthwhile talking to him,
I figured.
okay? So, I'm
Working
working
on
on
getting a
trying
great
to.
deal over here, and they said, wow, good for you.
Exactly.
It's insurance, right? So it's like, you know how
Right.
Progressive used to, their big thing used to be they'll show you their competitors' rates.
Right.
It's because they figure someone else can give you a lower rate, you're losing them money. So they'd rather send them a bad customer than
Right.
keep a good customer.
When we get ready to finalize, again, assuming it's Anthem, and then that's, would be my recommendation right now, I haven't seen all of this yet. I'll see what kind of agreement I can get in terms of locking in rates for 1, 2, or 3 years. I might be able to get a 2-year deal, and we'll see what happens from there.
Right.
But it's not something that I would want to go through every year, and I don't think it's a good idea to do this every year.
And in the past, we've read the legislation that if the change is less than X, I think
Right.
X was.
And it's
10
been
or
ordinance in the
12%.
past, and you had to approve it.
Yeah.
But then it just can
Yeah.
go
So-
on without.
One of the other things that's a little bit different this year too, the ordinance that defines the healthcare program can't also authorize you to do the contract. So there's a separate ordinance authorizing that contract to take place. And we'll look at some language to see about an increase, whether the mayor can automatically sign it, or we come back to council again to have approval of what would be 2025's rates.
Right.
Okay?
And either way, if that's what it is, not to speak for people who are gonna be doing work that I'm not, that's another piece of legislation we can move on, you know.
And that's the extent of what I have to provide tonight. So I will have, hopefully for December 7th, you said, or 6th?
Yeah, 7th.
7th, I will have a draft of the appropriation ordinance for 2024. Okay?
So,
And we'll go over that to start with in the work session.
Yes.
all right. That's all you got?
That's all I have.
That's all I got. Anybody got anything else for Finance Committee? All right, I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay